Hello everybody and welcome to this first lesson of Blender. In this very short and very brief tutorial I'm only going to cover the basics of Blender, and I'm only really going to show you how to texture an object in Blender. If you want to learn more about Blender, there's a lot of possibility to learn. I recommend it. I really like using Blender a lot, but this tutorial is just the very basics. So let's get started. When you start Blender for the first time, we see a default scene. This scene contains a cube, a camera, and a lamp. If I want to navigate through this scene, there's three things I can do. First of all, I can rotate. If I want to rotate, I press the middle mouse button and move the mouse. And here we are rotating about our object. And we can see our scene from various angles. I can also pan. If I want to pan, I press Shift and I press the middle mouse button and move it. And then here I can move up and down and left and right. And finally I can zoom. In order to zoom, you just move the scroll wheel about. Next I can select objects. In order to select something, you use the right mouse click. So for example, I'm going to select the lamp and I'm going to right mouse click on it, or the camera, I'm going to right mouse click on it, or the object, I'm going to right mouse click on it. And you see that when I have something selected, it's got a gold border around it. I can also select all objects at once by pressing the A button. If something is selected already, it first deselects everything. But if nothing is selected and I press the A button, then everything is selected. So here I'm toggling between selecting everything and selecting nothing by pressing the A button. Now I've got various modes in Blender. We are currently in object mode, which we can see here. If I select my cube by right clicking on it, we can also go to various other kinds of modes like texture paint mode, weight paint, and so forth, but that's not so interesting. What's interesting for us right now is edit mode. When we go to edit mode, we see that our object has transformed into various vertices, lines, and faces. If we look closely, we see dots which represent vertices. If I right click on one of the dots, that vertex is selected. And if I press Shift and right click, I select multiple vertices at the same time. I can press A to deselect all of them, or A again to select all of them. If we look down here, I can click also on Edge Select, in which case I can select edges instead of vertices. Or if I click here, it's Face Select, where I select faces instead of edges. One interesting function is the delete function. I can select a face and press X, and I can choose to delete the vertices, the edges, the faces, etc. Here I've deleted the top of the box. Now I'm going to press Tab, which is a shortcut to go back to object mode, and I see that my object is now a box without a top. I can also delete the whole object in one go. When I'm in object mode, I press X, delete. And I can add more objects by going to Add, Mesh, Cube. The mesh is added where we find this cursor. If I left click somewhere on the screen, I see that the cursor moves there. And if I add an object now, for example a sphere, the sphere is added where the cursor is. So I'm going to delete my sphere. Finally, I can move my object, rotate my object, and scale the object. If I want to move the object, I just press G. If I want to rotate the object, I press R and move the mouse. And if I want to scale the object, I press S and move the mouse. That's a lot of information for a start. I suggest you practice a bit with it. So, see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.